Hello YouTube! We're on the Real Programming channel about HTML and CSS for beginners. My name is Andrei. This is our 79th lesson. Welcome, I greet you. We'll talk about modern HTML, chapter 12, HTML5 markup. Let's go. So we're sure you heard the hype around HTML5, and given how far along you are in this book, you're probably wondering if you made the right purchase. Now, one thing to be clear about upfront is that everything you've learned in this book has been HTML, and more specifically has met the HTML5 standard. But there are some new aspects of HTML markup that we added with the HTML5 standard that we haven't covered yet, and that's what we're going to do in this chapter. Most of these additions are evolutionary, and you're going to find you are quite comfortable with them given all the hard work you already done in this book. There is some revolutionary stuff too, like video, and we'll talk about that in the chapter as well. So let's dive in and take a look of these new additions. Rethinking HTML structure. Before we learn even more markup, let's step back for a second. We will talk a lot about structure, but are divs really a good structure? After all, the browser doesn't really know your div ID footer. Is a footer, it's just knows it is a div, right? That seems rather unsatisfying, doesn't it? Much of the new HTML5 markup is aimed at recognizing how people structure their pages with divs and providing markup that is more specific and better is suited for certain kinds of structure. Yes, you see, when the browser offers search engines or screen readers see ID navigation in your page, they have no idea your div is for navigation. It might as well say ID Google diGoob. So the standards bodies actually took a look at how div elements were being used for headers, navigation, footers, articles, and so on, and they added new elements to represent those things. That means with HTML5 we can rework our pages a bit and replace our divs with elements that more specifically identify the kind of content contained in them. Brain power. Think about the way you've seen divs used. Also check out a few web pages and see how they are using divs. Let's say you wanted to take the most common patterns, then change the divs into real HTML elements. For instance, you could change all the div ID footer element to just footer elements. Make a list of all the new elements you'd add to HTML. Of course, you won't want to add too many, just enough to cover the most common uses. Also note any advantages or disadvantages of adding these new elements. So exercise who does what. Sure, we could just tell you about the new HTML5 elements, but wouldn't it be more fun to figure them out? Below you will find the new elements to the left. These aren't all the new elements, but you'll find the more important ones here. For each element, match it with its description to the right. Modern Starbucks. Starbucks Coffee is a modern, hip company, so shouldn't they be using the latest and greatest markup in their pages? Let's take a look at where they might be missing out on opportunities to use HTML5. So, Starbucks uses a div with ID header for the heading. Could we use a header element here to make the structure more obvious? They use a div with an ID main for the main center column. Here is a div with an ID drinks for this left column. This content is all related. Is there a better way? And the main content area is made up of a set of almost articles about various aspects of Starbucks. Here is the div with ID footer. For the footer, that one seems pretty obvious since we have a footer element. One note, for this chapter we remove the award and the coupon so we can focus on the big picture structure. And here is a div with an ID sidebar for the right column. This really feels like secondary content. Can this be an aside on the page? The use div with an ID main for the main center column. We can definitely think of that as the main content area of the page, or maybe we should say a main section. Exercise. Using everything you know so far about the new HTML5 elements, see if you can rework the Starbucks page to make use of them. Go ahead and just mark out and scribble on this page. We are not showing the super detailed structure of the page, so for now just focus on this large grained structure. And exercise solution. We can use the header element for our header div. That's pretty straightforward. Each of these section groups together a set of related content. That's just what the section elements is for. And the sidebar is really peripheral content. We can place that in a site elements given that's exactly what the site is for. And we can use the footer element for our footer. Update your Starbucks HTML. Let's go ahead and add these new elements to your Starbucks HTML, starting with the header, footer and site elements. We'll come back and look at the section element in a bit, but for now you can just leave the drinks and main content divs as they are. Go ahead and open up the Starbucks index.html file and make the following changes. So, our header, remove the div, this div text and replace them with the header text. Step 2. Add the footer element. Do the same for the div ID footer, only replace it with a footer element. And this delete. This was delete. And step 3. Change the sidebar to an aside. Now let's change the sidebar div to an aside element. We decide to save a few trees or bits by abbreviating the content a little. Just make sure you keep all the original content in the page and change the div text to a site text. Test driving the new right. We got a bit more to rework, but doesn't your HTML already feel somehow never cleaner, more modern? Go ahead and do a test drive by loading your page in your browser. Looks like things didn't work so well. What happened? You had me all talked into this HTML5 stuff. That page doesn't look so good. No worries, we just got ahead of ourselves. The page doesn't look right because we changed the HTML, but we never reworked the CSS. Think about it like this: we had a bunch of divs with IDs that the CSS was relying on, and some of those divs aren't there anymore. So we need to rewrite the CSS to target the new elements instead of those old divs. Let's do that now. So before you continue, Watch it. Older browsers do not support the new elements in HTML5 you will be using in this chapter. The elements we are using in this chapter are new to HTML5 and aren't well supported in the older browser, such as Internet Explorer 8 and earlier Safari 3 and earlier Etc. If you are concerned that your web page might be used by people who are still using these old browsers, and then don't use these new elements yet. Mobile browser in smartphones like Android and phone support those new elements, so if your primary audience target is mobile users, you're good to go. Check this elements 4. This is our this is what you want. Links. And next chapter, next our lesson will be about update your Starbus HTML. And we'll talk about this in the next lesson. And this is our 79 lesson over. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel, please. Put likes, share with friends, comment, and eat fruit, read more books on the topic, and be sure to practice regularly in the evening. It is and drink water for the brain. Bye.